just to let you know, Barbara, I've just messaged my colleague, well, I've just messaged Olga, and Olga is saying to me that she has a hold screen at the moment. She has the please wait screen showing on her screen.
She's in here now, so. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a welcome to you from the Learning Live Networks, that is the LPI team, as well as the L&D Africa team. I hope that we are all well. Would like to say a very big thank you to you for taking the time off to join us in this discussion. We are hoping that this will be a very intimate and impactful discussion for all of us. So thank you so much for taking time off to join us for this discussion. We shall be starting shortly. In the meantime, if you don't mind, please share with me in the chat box where you're joining us from this evening. I'd like to know, where are you joining us from this evening? Thank you so much. So we have William Dennis, who's joining us from Liberia. It's good to have you with us. Pleasure, and we hope that you will enjoy the conversations that we have here today. We have Kessewah joining from Ghana. We have Olga joining from the UK. Thank you so much for joining us. We have people joining from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much for taking the time off to join us. I will go very briefly. We will go through using the tools and using Zoom for this session. So a very warm welcome to us all. This is the very first Learning Live Networks event that we are having in Africa. So thank you for being one of the pioneers and attending our maiden Learning Live Networks events in Africa. We will tell you more about Learning Live Networks as the program starts. And so thank you so much for joining us. We are hoping that this will be the first of many such events where we meet, share ideas, and find solutions to the specific problems that we may be facing. This session will last approximately 90 minutes. And so we should be out of here by 5:30 Accra time. We'll just go through a few of our notifications for using Zoom, just taking us through, reminding us how to use Zoom. So for your convenience and the convenience of other attendees today, your microphones have been muted. However, we would love for this conversation to be a very interactive one. This is like a conversation more than maybe a presentation. And so please feel free to use the chat box. We will come to the chat box, but also feel free to raise your hand. Use the raise hand button during the session, and we will promote you to a panelist so that you can ask a question or give a contribution during this conversation. And so if you hover your mouse on the bottom half of your screen, you will see a black panel rise up and you will see some icons on that panel. The first one is the chat icon and the chat button. And so we will be using the chat button to communicate with one another during this session. If you don't want to, raise your hand so that your audio rights will be given back to you, you can use the chat button. And when you're using the chat box, please make sure that your setting for chat is set to all panelists and attendees so that everyone here can read what you're saying. And you've been using chat successfully already. And so I'm sure we'll have no problems at all with that. And here's the raise hand button that I was talking about. Next to the chat box on that panel, you will see a hand button. So please, if you have any contributions, any suggestions, any questions, even though your mics have been muted, we would love for you to use the raise hand button and you can ask a question or give a submission. You will be promoted to a panelist briefly so that you can ask your question or give your suggestion. There's also the question and answer button. And so if you do not use the chat button to talk to us, you can also use the question and answer button, and we will see your questions and we will direct the questions to the panelists as well as all our attendees today, because today it's more of a conversation. And so we will all try and find answers to the questions that are posed in this session together. And so this is how to use the question and answer button. You can decide to send your question anonymously. There's a little box that you can tick and your name will not show when you send your question. This is how you log out. When you hover your mouse over the bottom half of the screen again, you will see a red button that says leave. And you can click that button to leave the session. You can use that button to leave the session. So thank you all so much for joining us once again. My name is Baba Jackson. I am a partner at Rainbow Consults, and I am the head of the L&D Africa Secretariat. And we are pleased to bring to you this Learning Live Networks event together with the LPI. And so without much ado, I'd like us to jump straight into the main business for the day. And I would like to introduce us all to a gentleman from the LPI. He's the global head of content of the LPI. And we are so pleased and blessed to have him here with us to share his insights with us. And so without much further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I will introduce to you Michael Strawbridge. I feel like I can't do his introductions justice. And so I will leave him to introduce himself a bit and to give us the opening remarks for this session. Warm welcome to you, Michael.
Thank you, Barbara. I'm just making sure that my screen is showing. Can you see my screen now there, Barbara? Is that showing as we practiced earlier on?
Yes, Michael, we can see your screen.
It is perfect. I'm just going to move that down a little bit out of the way so I can see where I am. Perfect, thank you. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon for the very first Learning Live Networks Ghana. I am joining you from the UK, which is where the Learning and Performance Institute is based. And I'm actually in an area of the country called Warwickshire, which, as you can see from the map, which I've just shared with you on the screen, is about as close to the centre of the country as you can possibly get. Now, it's a great pleasure to join the event, and I must thank initially Margaret and Barbara and their colleagues at Rainbow Consult for arranging this inaugural event in Ghana. Now, as Barbara said, my name is Michael Strawbridge, and I am the Global Head of Community here at the LPI. And I thought before we go any further, it would be a good idea for me to give you a little insight into who and what the LPI actually is and what we actually do. The LPI is a global independent body for workplace learning professionals that has since 1995 been supporting, promoting and celebrating the individuals and organizations who help people learn in the workplace. Now, in that time, we've seen huge global changes, both in technological and cultural, and yet we've remained focused, agile, and innovative. We are, and I suppose we shall always will be, an organization that promotes diversity, inclusion, and fair treatment of the people who we work with and who we work for. Our unique focus is on learning efficacy, and by that, I mean the demonstrable impact of learning on individuals and organizational performance. We have a unique portfolio of skills and expertise with over 500 years of combined experience in the world of learning. As a professional body, we're in constant contact with both our members and also the wider L&D community, and continually collect data that helps us understand the challenges of the industry. Using a variety of methods and tools, we've captured millions of data points that over the years have unearthed strong evidence of L&D's competencies, weaknesses, and those obviously fluctuate over time. Knowing where L&D is proficient and where it struggles is critical if we're to close the skills gaps, attract talent, and improve business performance. These data points include the skills gaps which were identified as a result of the completion of the self-assessment tool, the Capability Map, registrations from around the globe to our annual conference, Learning Live, as well as the outcomes from various different accreditation processes. I'd just like to share a little bit of information with you about the Capability Map, and that was first launched in 2012. And since then, it's been helping thousands of individuals and teams identify their strengths and skills gaps and understand what is needed to build a future-ready capability organization. The Capability Map's available online 24/7 and is free for individual use and is regularly updated. The Capability Map is the ultimate tool to help L&D people do their jobs better and prime them for success in this rapidly changing business world. The individual assessment areas were developed by leading international experts in their respective fields of learning, using the very latest research, frameworks, and real-world experiences. These individual areas were normalized for terminology usage and then combined to form what we now have as the LPI Capability Map. The final design has been tested and peer-reviewed collaboratively over several iterations. So now on to Learning Live Networks itself. And Learning Live Networks has been in existence for a number of years and is an active global network exclusively for heads of learning or the equivalent, where members share insights to improve in performance, learning experiences, and share knowledge in a constructive, secure, and convenient interactions. We achieve this via a number of ways, from our Learning Live annual conference to interactive online and face-to-face events where members can join in insights and monthly online masterclasses. As an institute, we are very proud to be working with Rainbow Consult to bring this network to your geographic region and to extend the insight and support to you via these various different mechanisms as mentioned. I would suggest that now really is our moment. We have the opportunity to step up and support the business in times of challenge, whatever they may be. And I would argue that we are in the midst of a pivotal moment, and it's a great time to be involved in learning and development. I mentioned earlier the data insights, and our thousands of data points clearly show that building a digital learning culture is a focus for strategic L&D professionals, which is why I'm excited to see that that is the very topic that we're going to be discussing in today's event. Thanks, everyone, and I'm looking forward to the conversations.
Thank you so much, Michael, for that very brief but insightful introduction to today's event. I think that the next thing for us to do is to introduce our panelists for today. And we are pleased and very honored to have an august panel who will be leading our discussions today. The first person on the panel is Ms. Abena Kessewah Brown, who is the principal of the Ghana National Banking College. Ms. Brown joined the National Banking College in August 2016 as the principal and a member of the governing council. She has over 33 years of experience, combined experience in accounting, finance, technology, learning and people transformation strategies across continents. Prior to joining the National Banking College, she worked with Standard Chartered Bank for over 4 years in numerous capacities as a people team leader for the West Africa Shared Services and joined the organizational learning team in 2006, where she served as the West Africa region and later the Americas region from 2013. Abena is a founding member of the Committee for Cooperation between Law Enforcement Agencies and Banking Communities and serves on various boards, including Ghana's Central Tender Board, and she's a former editorial member of the Lpi magazine and the Ghana Amalgamated Trust. She's also a member of the Institute of Directors Ghana and the Executive Women's Network, as well as the Association for Talent Development. You are warmly welcome, Ms. Brown, and we are so pleased to have you. And I am so sorry, pardon my mistake, she has over 14 years of the experience is over 14 years. So sorry. The next person that we have, also a captain in this industry, is Charles Vandyck. He is a social justice activist and change maker with expertise and experience in strengthening civil society resilience, sustainability, and civic leadership. He's a member of the Global Governance Board of the Innovation for Change Network. Charles is also a founding member of the International Consortium on Civic Space, an initiative of the Center for Strategic and International Studies. He currently serves as the co-chair of the governing board of Africans Rising, a Pan-African movement of people and organizations working for justice, peace, and dignity. He's a core team member of the Reimagining INGOs initiative. Charles also serves as the head of capacity development unit at the West Africa Civil Society Institute. He's a member of the Development Student Studies Association, United Kingdom, and a certified Change the Game Academy master trainer, as well as an IFC Lpi TPMA certified trainer. You are so warmly welcome, Charles, and thank you so much for honoring our invitation and spending time with us today. Thank you. Last but not least, we have such captains of our industry here. We have with us Mr. Peter Bamkole, and he's the director of the Enterprise Development Center of the Pan-African University in Lagos, Nigeria. Mr. Bamkole pioneered the EDC of the Pan-Atlantic University in January 2003, and it is now one of the top enterprise development centers in Africa. And its model has been replicated in 4 African countries. We're talking about Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda. As the director of the center, he is responsible for the overall program development, capacity building, and support services to the entrepreneurs of the center. He was initially trained as a mechanical engineer in the UK under the British Petroleum Scholarship with an MBA from the IESE Business School in Spain. He is also an alumnus of the Lagos Business School. He's an alumnus of the Chief Executive Program of the Lagos Business School, and he has over 36 years experience. And this experience spans both the public and private sectors. He's worked in the oil industry, he's worked in water supply, he's also worked in education. I mean, there's so much to say about Mr. Bamkole. He led the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women Initiative in Nigeria and was a consultant to the project in Liberia. He has initiated and led several partnership programs with diverse stakeholders, such as British Council, Etisalat, Federal Government of Nigeria, Diamond Bank, Stanbic, IBTC, Access Bank, and MTN. With the support of Coca-Cola Africa Foundation, he is developing a new generation of non-profit leaders and social entrepreneurs in Nigeria. A certified Learning and Performance Institute and IFC TPMA trainer, as well as an IFC certified master trainer, Mr. Bamkole consults widely in sub-Saharan Africa on entrepreneurship development and practice. He's a member of the University Management Council. He has served on the National Council of MSME and Youth and the Youth Learning and Advisory Committee of the MasterCard Foundation, Canada. He serves as the chairman of both the International Breweries Foundation and the Nigeria Climate Innovation Center. Peter Bamkole received the 2017 Member of the Year Award from the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs. He was also the recipient of the 2017 Alumni of the Year Award from the Lagos Business School. In November of 2018, Peter Bamkole was conferred with the Fellowship of the Society for Corporate Governance in Nigeria. His current interest is designing new learning methods and e-support for SMEs. Thank you so much, sir, for gracing us with your presence. and for joining us today. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. And thank you so much, our participants, for joining us in this discussion. As I already mentioned, it's going to be a discussion rather than a presentation. So please feel free to use the raise hand button to draw my attention if you have a contribution or a question, and we shall promote your rights so that you can use your mic. Also feel free to use the chat box if there's a suggestion that you would like to give over the course of this conversation. And so we're going to go right in. We are going to go right into our first sort of question to set the tone for today's discussion. And I'd like to ask this question too. For now, all of my panelists who are here, what is a digital learning culture and why do you think it's important? And so I will start with Mr. Bamkole. I'll come to you, Mr. Vandyck, and then Ms. Brown. I'll come to you next. So please, whenever you're ready. And
Thank
also
you.
my participants, if you'd like to contribute to this question and this discussion, please feel free to raise up your hand and I shall give you the opportunity to share your views.
Thank you so much, Baba, and it's a great pleasure joining everyone here this evening. A digital learning culture, it's something that has in some way been with us, but was amplified during the last 12 to 15 months because of the pandemic. And this is all about using digital devices to be able to learn, whether at home, at work, or indeed in our everyday lives. And I would say it's now becoming an acceptable culture because we are seeing that the way people work has changed completely. And so I'm going to zero it down to the digital learning culture at work. So at work, for us, it has become something that is very efficient because you can have repository of learning materials that people can go to at their convenience to be able to understand how things work. So for instance, when we get new hires nowadays, you don't need to do the standard onboarding the way we used to do it before. Sometimes it could take two weeks to do onboarding for new staff. Now you do maybe a Zoom onboarding for 1 hour or 90 minutes. The rest they have to go through some kind of learning process that is digitalized and it's somewhere in the cloud. That means that things are fresh, things are consistent, and then the quality is something that everyone can measure. There are also ways in which you can monitor if those people are learning and if they are not. And based on some kind of assessment, we're seeing that we're able to monitor and track very well. So, and if they are not getting some concept or some things that you are doing, you can see it, you can track it, and then you can follow them up on a one-to-one basis. So, but all of a sudden, people are saying to themselves, if you don't know something, there is a place you can go to. It's a digital space, it is safe, and everybody is becoming used to it. Now, the responsibility of promoting a digital culture lies primarily on the chief executive. And most of the time, we make sure that whatever question you are asking, there is an answer somewhere in that digital space that we have created for people. But I must say very quickly that depending on location, depending on where we find ourselves, it may be difficult for everybody to be able to have access to digital devices and tools in the same way. So like in EDC, for instance, we have 4 locations. And the way we have access in Lagos and sometimes in Abuja is different from how we have in Kano and Kaduna. And so we also have to make sure that there are information distributed in different ways so that even if your internet capacity or capability is not exactly the same, you still don't lose out. So I will leave it at that, but basically to say digital learning culture has to do with embedding it into the everyday life of the organization, and the chief driver of that is not the CTO, but the CEO. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yes, please go ahead, Charles.
Thank you, Baba. Thank you for this very interesting conversation. So for me, the question is a very important question. So a digital learning culture, and just like Mr. Bamkole said, it's about how learning is embedded within an organization, how you've built a culture. So basically an environment that enables and promotes learning, sharing, the production of knowledge, of course, using digital and virtual means. And so within our organizations, to what extent have we created that environment that enables staff to learn digitally and virtually, to produce knowledge and to share knowledge? Do they have the infrastructure, that is the computers? Is there basic internet access? Are they able to use digital tools? And so these are all the ingredients of building a digital learning culture. And I think it's important because when you look at the digital space, it increases access to a lot of knowledge, new knowledge and information, and of course, ideas in a timely, in a convenient, and in a cost-effective manner. Timely because you get information at the speed, I always say at the speed of sound. You just connect and you can get that information. And it's very convenient at the time you want, where you want, whatever conditions you find yourself in. And it's usually much more cost effective to access this information. Usually what you need is decent internet access. So for me, to put it in short, this is a digital learning and culture. And so it becomes a part of how the organization learns and develops.
Thank you so much for that. And it's almost like you were reading my mind because you have started answering my next question. And so I will come back to you with the follow-up question on what you just said. But I'd like to hear from Ms. Brown, please.
It's almost like I'm wondering what I can say to add to what our two panelists have said. But, you know, I mean, I look at it from the point of view that what is culture? And if we look at culture, it's basically the way we do things. So in this case, it will be the way we are learning. And we have been learning physically, face-to-face. We've been using paper and killing plenty of trees, for our materials. It has been instructor led, but the digital learning now offers us a different way of learning, and the culture will be moving from the face-to-face to, let's say, virtual platforms. Secondly, our materials will mainly be in soft, so we can save quite a number of trees. Thirdly, it is self-directed, and most importantly, as far as I'm concerned, because in this self-directed mode, we are able to definitely go at our own place. It's convenient. It doesn't have to be in a physical place. And all these changes, of course, at the end of the day for the organization, there's a huge cost saving, even though there's an initial investment into the technology. Content is also easily received, and it's not just sitting in a human being. They can now put it into the material in soft, and then it's therefore quite scalable. So this is quite important. Of course, our challenges with the culture that we are trying to build is obviously our, let's say, being in Africa and our location, our cost of internet and the stability of it. But I do have big hope that it can't get any worse. It's going to get much better. And I think we would then therefore experience the real benefits of digital learning culture. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. And I'll come back to all of you, but I'd like to come back to Charles. And you spoke about the fact that have we given our staff and the people in our organizations the tools that they need to be able to engage in digital learning as we're talking about it. And now I'd like to ask you, would you say that you have been able to build a digital learning culture in your organization? And tell us a bit about what you've been doing in your organization to make sure that learning is going on well as we are all shifting to digital and virtual.
Yes, and thank you, Baba, for that. So yes, we have to a large extent, especially since 2018 when we did our new strategy. And in that strategy, we became very intentional about integrating virtual learning or digital learning in terms of in our operations and in the work that we do. So the strategic direction helped a lot. And what we tried to do since 2018 is a couple of things to build this culture. First of all, we had to invest in what we call the mindset of staff, of course, for them to kind of really take up this new way of learning. Before that, we were very much heavy on the face-to-face traditional forms of learning. And of course, we realized we had to integrate digital learning. So we needed a mindset shift, right? And then also we needed to make sure that there was adequate or sufficient technology infrastructure. And here I spoke about internet access, I've talked about tools, I talked about computers, and of course, other accessories that enable you to learn. And then of course, we had to build our expertise in using specific digital tools for learning. And these are softwares and other available tools online. And so these are some of the things we did. Of course, we realized that with respect to mindsets, ownership and promotion of knowledge, especially the consumption of knowledge and shared learning was the key. And we realized that leadership was critical and that the leadership had to lead by example. So we always talk about the power of the example. We needed to make sure that the board was behind this strategic shift. We needed to make sure that the executive leadership and senior managers were behind it. And we realized that this would be the most effective way of bringing about this change. And then we also tried to put in place a mechanism to kind of document our experiences or what we called our lessons as we were making this transition. And so as we're making this transition, we were documenting some of the lessons, what was working well, what didn't work well, what we needed to respond to. And so it was interesting that in 2020, COVID came, and it was almost like, the things that we were doing was prophetic in the sense that all of a sudden we realized that it was great for us, it was great foresight for us to invest in digital learning. So for us, the transition was very neat and tidy to a large extent. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Charles. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I have a few follow-ups, but I'd like to hear from Ms. Brown, and then I'll come to you, Mr. Bamkole, to share with us what is the sort of digital learning culture that you've been able to build in your organization, and please tell us more about the thinking behind it.
Okay, that's an interesting question for us because, as you know, our organization has been around for over 25 years. And it's a learning organization, and most of our key resources have been in the industry for many years. So we sort of have resources that are senior people. So coming back to your question, how did we build it? because of the generational gap, where in most organizations where they have younger generations who are, digitally, let's say, exposed, in our case, the COVID had to, we had no choice but to upskill our faculty. And that's exactly what we did. The speed at which we, of course, we know in Ghana, we had our lockdown. So when we did the lockdown and people were still not, out there, we used that opportunity to actually do the training for our key resources, and that's our facilitators, and to make sure that the next step was to convert their material from soft to, from the face-to-face content to virtual content. It may sound easy, but one of the key things is that you may have a 4-day program that now you can only teach in maybe 2 days, or maybe you can only teach 4 hours a day. And therefore you had to really tweak and pull out the most important material content from the material to be able to transfer knowledge. So with that, I am so happy to say that the nervousness that we had in the beginning it's definitely gone down, because everybody has embraced going virtual. And in fact, most of our faculty are actually enjoying this way, of teaching. Of course, we do have some more training to do when it comes to instructional design and how to design, your content. And that is the shift that we'll be working on in 2021, going towards 2022. Our clients, or let's say the banks participants, of course, most banks have gone digital, so they are fine, and they don't have a problem with the virtual presentations. The key problem is that access is one of the key issues. You don't have 100% access for all the staff, and therefore there are some challenges in making sure that certain roles may need to find other ways. And then certain banks, obviously, they are not working in the office. And so they are not able to leverage on the infrastructure of the office. So they have to leverage on their home infrastructure. And we all know that some of us live way out, and the connectivity of the internet is quite poor. Even where you don't live way out, internet connectivity can give you a surprise on any day. So that's basically it. So mindset, we are on our way. We are really on our way.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going to come back to both you and Charles, and I'm sure that Mr. Bamkole will talk about access too. But access keeps on coming back. And so I'd like to hear from you, Mr. Bamkole. And my participants, please, this is an interactive session. And so I'd like to know what you are also doing in your organizations. And if there's anything you'd like to share with us about your digital learning culture, please feel free to raise your hand or share in the chat box.
Okay, so thank you, Baba. I'm going to look at it from 2 angles, because we are also a learning organization. So it's both for the staff and then for those that we are building their capacity. So I'll take it from those 2 angles. The first one was we actually locked down before the official lockdown. When it was obvious that eventually people, the country was going to be on a lockdown, we took a decision that we needed to be able to work from anywhere. And so we invested in all those infrastructure for staff. Anywhere and everywhere that you were across Nigeria, you will have a router, a MiFi, whatever it is. We invested in that and we paid for it. Then on an average, everybody, whether you are a driver, a kitchen staff, whatever, you will have data given to you on a monthly basis. And these are mega data. So it's not just, that we're missing it. If for people like me, I mean, I have at any time 1 terabyte of data going with me anywhere I go. This is minus, the internet facility that we have in the office. And so, so you have your laptops, you have the data, you have everything to work from anywhere. And so you see that people are, we were having weekly meetings now. Before we used to have meetings 2 or 3 times a week, and we spin the wheel. So when we spin the wheel can land on anybody. And everybody must be ready to know how to host a program the way you are hosting just now. And the day my driver was going to host one of those sessions, I gave him a full day to go and work with people. And it's so interesting that now there is nobody in my organization that cannot host a Zoom meeting and coordinate it. That we do very well. So everybody is very comfortable with that. Then the second thing that we did was that immediately this happened, we couldn't do a lot of our physical programs, and people were getting tired just sitting at home and doing other things. So we had to quickly create, products and services that were leveraging on virtual tools. So we used to do physical visitation before. My guys immediately started doing visitation. They call it virtual visits. And so we could still get exactly the same thing. It was a bit difficult because of internet, but we got by. And then we used all kinds of methods. If you can't use Zoom, you use WhatsApp. If you can't use WhatsApp, you use Telegram. And there were many, many things that happened. In a space of 3 months, we took a number of our learners on the virtual platform. We took them to Telegram to continue to provide services to them. Today, in 3 months, we have well over 6,000 of them that are providing support to them, which it was a shortfall when we're doing virtual. Okay, so the other part is that not everybody will have access to smart devices. Not everybody will have access to internet. And so we had to work with the telecoms providers and to say, is there a way in which we can actually bring learning to those in the rural setting or those that don't have access to internet facilities? It took a while, but within 6 months, we actually developed a program where we could deliver learning over non-smartphones. We call it IVR, is interactive voice response. It's something that has been with us for a very long time, but we just didn't think about it. So when you make a call into an office and then you hear, if you need sales, please press 2. If you need this, press 5. And we use that technology to start to learn. But because your learners cannot see you, we also have to look at a delivery methodology that's very similar to what they use in the radio system, where the on-the-air personality speaks on the radio, carry the people along, but they don't see them. So we had to use them to do and to curate content. There's so much, but let me stop a minute before I get really excited about this.
This is so interesting. And it's like you have already gone into one of my questions. So I think maybe we should go there naturally. But it's so interesting to hear about the innovations that you have been employing. And so if I heard you right, there's the IVR, which you use for learning and development for people in areas that don't have data. And I think that is one of the best innovations that we've come up with in Africa, because data is one of our biggest problems. And so I am very happy to hear about this, and I'm sure my other heads of learnings on this call may be very pleased to hear that there is a way of circumventing that data problem, because it's a big issue for us. But before I come back to you to ask about the innovations that you employed, There is a comment from Wakine in the chat box that says that the benefits of digital learning are clear. How to create the culture still requires further discussion. I believe that there are certain skills, techniques, and rules to make it a culture. And so that's very interesting. And I'd like your take on that. He believes that there are skills, techniques, and rules that we have to follow before we can make it a culture. So,
okay,
yeah.
so I will quickly start. First of all, human beings will always do what is in their best interest. That's a general norm. So when the pandemic started, and I would say the pandemic accelerated quickly what we had always had in mind. We didn't start to develop, content before, at pandemic, but before. But one thing was obvious. We had some people who could immediately start working online. But we had maybe 50% who could not. So for instance, our cafeteria staff, they couldn't be cooking online and sending to us. It was not possible. The drivers could not drive online and send to us. So they had to quickly think of something. So we took them over a 1 week period to reskill them and say, you can be useful as hosts, as co-hosts in our online virtual classrooms. So they knew how to move participants into syndicates or breakout rooms. They know how to do the recording and do some little things. And those people were useful because we can't be everywhere. And so they were the foot soldiers that were helping us on the virtual space. And they knew that as they were doing that, they also sat in class and they were learning a lot of things. And one of the drivers came to me and said, I can budget well now, because he had sat in a budget class that he was just co-hosting. And so they saw the benefit. And then once you see the benefit, it's easier to learn. It's easier to learn. And that was what happened to us. So don't worry about it. Give them the benefit. You'll be sure that they will run after it. They will not see it as work at all.
Thank you so much, sir. Charles, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to that.
Yes, just something quickly. I think another important thing is the role of leadership. I just emphasize that the leaders must be seen to be, being the ones promoting this learning culture, using the tools. They must be seen to be encouraging other staff to use the tools. They must be seen to be open about the difficulties that they're also having, using the tools and basically sharing their experiences. And I think it's key. So a typical sector like ours, which is a nonprofit sector, is very traditional and conservative compared to the private sector and the public sector in terms of change. And so with that sector, you could imagine how a lot of the organizations felt. How do you do advocacy online, right? How do you engage with communities online? It became very, very difficult for people to comprehend, right? And so you needed to really, be very intentional. Experiences from other organizations within their own context on how they are making that transition to online engagement. And I think that helped a lot for us because we are also an institute that trains. We do capacity building. We train a lot of organizations, nonprofit organizations. And so we need to reflect what we train. And so we needed to be the example. So for example, just a quick example, we had to develop a policy on remote working, right? And it was very important for us to do this because we realized that, look, the way we're going to work will change forever. There's going to be instances where people have to work remotely and they can still be effective. But how do we create that infrastructure? How do we create the guidance to make sure that is even possible? And since we created that policy and started talking about remote working capacities, a lot of other nonprofit organizations are also, exploring and experimenting with remote working. So you build a culture by doing. You build a culture by daring to do something different. You build a culture sometimes by failing when you're doing, but importantly by learning those lessons and ensuring that leadership is clear about where they are going. And I want to emphasize on leadership, right? Because staff will follow what leadership do, not necessarily what leadership say. And that is something that we're very conscious of.
Yes, thank you so much. And Ms. Brown, I saw that you had a comment in the chat box. Would you like to unmute and share, or should I read from the chat box? Because I'm sure would like to hear your voice.
Oh, well, what I was just saying when he talked about leadership is that definitely depending on the organization, there are a lot of baby boomer leaders around in our environment. And therefore, some organizations have done, let's say, reverse mentoring. So instead of the senior people mentoring the younger ones, we have the younger ones, or the digital babies rather, mentoring the older ones and being able to support them in their learning of how to use the tools.
Thank you so much for that. And we do have Gideon, and I believe he's the CEO of Alliance Ghana, wanting to share an experience about his own experience with learning culture and showing leadership in this respect. I believe what we were talking about just now. So please, I believe you should be able to unmute yourself now, Gideon.
Thank you very much. Really quite exciting to be part of this. I just wanted to share briefly what we are doing around the digital learning space, and also to encourage employees. I'd like to start from the last comment about leadership. So yes, it's true. If you show by example, then others will follow. So when we organize learning events virtually, one of the very first people that must be in attendance is me. So a lot of people then know that, oh, okay, this is important. And you know, ordinarily, some of these sessions are even facilitated by younger ones in the company, by middle managers, by other people who one would not expect that the CEO will be sitting and listening to. And then I'm in those sessions and also asking questions, participating, is just showing that this is what we do. But aside that, we registered our employees on LinkedIn Learning so that we can open up the floodgate for digital learning at your own pace. But the human resources also control that by monitoring what people are doing. And then we celebrate when people complete a course. Then we also have knowledge sharing sessions where people come to share knowledge about some projects that they've led, or about some of the things that they do in their departments. And those sessions are really packed to see, you know, people are always very proud to talk about certain things that we think that they've done well. We've also seen this really working to create that culture. And then something else that is helping us to create a culture is the recognition. We recognize those who facilitate. We also recognize those who complete some milestone. Apart from recognition, we also reward. We pay monies for those who have completed some kind of education. We also then just give some token just to celebrate them at different times. Then beyond the LinkedIn Learning, we also have some other learning platforms that we've enrolled our people into. And all of this is driven by digital, because in this day and age of COVID, everything is online. So in our company, we use WebEx. And so even when we run our NPR sessions, we allow everyone in the organization free entry into those sessions. And so when they come into these sessions, it's not only about the NPR, but when technical terms are used, they are explained. And so with all of these, we are seeing a lot of learning taking place. We are seeing a lot of sharing. We are seeing a lot of joy. We are seeing a lot of participation. And that is helping to drive this digital learning process that we are talking about. Just thought to share the example about leadership, showing by example, then others will follow. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I loved that. I really did love that leadership and the tone at the top. And I think it's one of the things that I have really picked up from all the submissions that have been given today, the importance of leadership and the tone at the top. But I have come to, shall I say, my favorite part of the questions. This is the question that I anticipated asking my panelists the most. And And then also to you, my participants, I'd like to know really, what has been your greatest challenge? I know that this shift to digital has been accelerated by the past year in a way that I don't think any of us imagined in December 2019. And it's been an interesting year and a few months. And I'd like to know, what has been the greatest challenge in this shift to digital and also promoting a digital learning culture? Mr. Bamkole, I think if you're ready, you can go first.
Okay, thank you so much, Baba. Let me start. The challenge, or let me start with a few challenges. On one hand, we were ready, but those that we were working with were not ready. That's a problem. My doctoral thesis is on e-learning and how this is infused into teaching. So as far back as 4 years ago, we have been curating different ways in which we can take learning online. So we've done a lot around instructional design. So we don't just do PowerPoint and voiceover. We look at things like gamification. We look at things like dramatization and so on and so forth. And we infuse all of these so as to increase the tackiness and how people finish this. But then we do stuff like going to the radio to promote our SMEs. And the radio stations are not equipped to be able to take me online. I have to be physically there. Or if they could take me on, they only have one jack or one connection that they could plug in, which means they do not have the physical infrastructure to take multiple people working with either Zoom and things like that. I hope they have learned those lessons moving forward, because that is the way life is going to be. Because when they have those infrastructure, it means that even if I'm in Warsaw or I'm in America, they can, zap me in, and they can have my viewpoints, and then I'm off. So that's the first challenge that we have. The second challenge is around what I call the look and feel people. The look and feel people still want to touch things before they buy it. They still want to hold something before they do it. So those are just headaches that we are still looking for the Panadol to solve it. We haven't gotten the paracetamols to solve that problem. But one thing that's, for us, more than 50% of our staff now, they are millennials, okay? And that was very intentional. We started 4 years ago. And it's not difficult each time we see you. In fact, we can ask you questions like, what's your DNN? I know that a lot of people don't understand, but DNN means what's your digital native number? Out of 1/10, you must be at least 7 or higher. If you are not 7 or higher, sorry, you are not part of us. Yeah, it means you are a digital native dinosaur, okay? So we have to help you. And one of the things we do is that even our cleaners and people that do janitorial services, we actually help to upscale them to be able to do this. But really, the greatest challenge that we have are the people that are not moving as fast as we are when it comes to a digital, not even just learning, but a digital culture in almost everything that they do.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing that. We will come back to that. But I'd like to hear from you, Charles.
Yeah, thank you, Baba. So just to emphasize on something Mr. Bamkole said, and I love that. He was talking about the way people consume or kind of, uptake this culture. So you realize that people are at different levels. People, there are those who were really excited about it and dived straight into it and, and embraced it. There were those who were standing on the borderline, and then there were those who were standing afar asking questions all the time and really asking, really, is this going to work? What is all this? this is stressful, I mean, so you had all these different types of people. So I think what we did was to respond to that, try to understand everybody's challenge, and then use those who are very excited about it. And of course, leadership to also encourage others to show how it benefits and to show that it's not actually a burden. This is going to add value to your life, right? There's an uncertainty, all right? There was COVID, there was a pandemic, but look at the opportunity that it has presented. And that is how we manage that situation. But there's also the challenge of, and I have to be honest, internet connectivity, right? I mean, lockdown, people are in different places. They stay in somewhere, even had gone to the rural areas or peri-urban, infrastructure challenges. You are online, you go in and out, you zoom in and out of Teams. It becomes really difficult to have a conversation or to do anything productive. So internet connectivity is a major, major challenge. And I think we really need to work on infrastructure, on internet connectivity. And like Mr. Bamkole said, I think it can only get better, but I'm hoping it gets better quicker, because it's really going to help our economies. Then I want to mention a third thing, online fatigue. I don't know if we're the only organization that were experiencing that, but after some point, people were just tired of online meetings. I remember some days I used to wonder where the time went. I even forgot about lunch. Every single time you open your email, there are various online links to different meetings. Then even scheduling becomes a problem, because now what happened is that we are now accessible. So everybody thinks that they can get you now. So now scheduling becomes so difficult. So that has created a major, major fatigue. So that is internally. But externally, with the clients and the people we work with, the biggest challenge was, how do we translate or transition from that traditional content with our training to online content to make it still engaging, right? I mean, when we started our training, we had some 4-hour trainings. It was a problem. We had to cut it short to 2 hours, add more innovative videos, graphics, and even had to change the content of the videos and graphics and try to make it more local, more something that people could identify with. And that took a lot of work. And I'll be honest, we underestimated the amount of work it takes to build online content and deliver it. I kind of personally, I'm a trainer. I like the energy I get from people. But I'm telling you, virtual makes me tired within a very, very short time. If I have to confess, it's not easy to keep people engaged virtually.
Well,
and then, of course, for our clients, internet connectivity. Our clients are like within the region, right? You can imagine from Cote d'Ivoire to the Gambia, right? And they're usually not the big capital cities, community-based organizations. So you can imagine the drama online when our trainings were going on. It was quite challenging.
I can imagine, and I think that it's so interesting because all the challenges we're talking about, and Ms. Brown, I'll come to you very shortly, all the challenges that we're talking about sort of really come back to the problems of connectivity and innovation around connectivity. And that's why I was so excited, because I feel like we can all take a few tips from Mr. Bamkole, because he seems to be really thinking about how to make digital learning accessible for Africans. That we've talked about IVR. He mentioned training on Telegram. He mentioned doing radio, and so I think we can all now start to brainstorm with each other, and that's why communities like this are important, because Learning Life Networks has given us the opportunity to gather as heads of learning, to share ideas and to pick up a few tips from each other about what to do. But as Mr. Bamkole said, and I was about to give a shameless plug, because, well, this is brought to us by L&D Africa, Rainbow Consults, and the LPI. And what we do with the LPI is we one of the services that we offer organizations across Africa is that we help them with their digital and virtual learning strategy. And I see a comment that says virtual can be very easy. That's why you need Cove. Mr. Bamkole is, I think, one of the greatest testimonials, because I think this year he has been through the Certificate of Online Learning Facilitation, the LPI Certificates for Online Learning Facilitation. And so if he is saying that we all need it, then I think that you should be calling the LPI and us to have a discussion about helping you with your digital strategy. And he just posted that he took 10 of his staff through the certificate of online learning facilitation. And Charles is nodding because I know he's anticipating the start of his session because we are slated to start in June with Charles also. So we're in good company. And Ms. Brown, I did not forget about you. I'll take your challenge. And I do have, that's the beauty of learning live. And so Michael was gracious enough and kind enough to invite members of the Global Learning Live Networks community to our first Learning Live Networks meeting. And so we do have a contribution from Christina, and she puts it in the chat box. But I would like to give you the opportunity, Christina, we want to hear your voice and we want to hear about your challenges from your side of the world also. And so after Ms. Brown gives her contribution, I will allow you to speak so that we all want to hear your contribution. And so that's what we're going to do next. Ms. Brown.
Okay, so, not to repeat what I've said already, like our organization is small. It's a learning organization. The great thing is that everybody has embraced what is coming in the future. The key thing for us was that our industry, of course, had started their digitalization journey. And therefore, for us as a trainer, we also needed to support the organizations by coming to make sure that we also have the infrastructure that we need to do the training digitally for the new generation. So because of that, we had already started the journey on the infrastructure, and we got it approved. I think that was, we got it approved in 2020 or 2019. And so now, no, it was 2020. So during that part, from 2020 to 2021, we have spent a lot of time getting the infrastructure in place. We've done the first layer. So now the second layer would be actually looking at putting the software for the various banks and then designing programs that can be used for both virtual and for face-to-face where the opportunity gives us. We are already working on that. But COVID, of course, sped it up for us, because now you don't have to talk much. You just have to say what it is. Everybody knows what digital means, and so we don't have a choice. So that's basically what we've been doing. The key thing that I have been grappling with, and not necessarily for my organization alone, but I get calls related to, okay, our organization wants to go digital. Where do we start? What do we do? And so I guess at the end of this, I would like to definitely be able to find out where are the experts, okay, in Africa? Yeah, because normally we end up going to, you go to the first world to look for somebody to come. But I know for sure that we have Africans working for a lot of these organizations. But where are these experts and that can support the development, particularly in learning, because learning for most organizations is quite new. You know, they've been in the traditional training. They put a young officer to take care of training, which means for them, it means, okay, we've identified the program. But now we are now looking at learning in terms of design, virtual, with looking at the different functions of the learning space and getting that person plus technology, that combination. Where are the experts? And I hope Peter will be able to help me with that.
Thank you so much for that. And we'll come back because Mr. Bamkole, she's posed a direct question to you, so you will have to answer it. But I would like to give Christina the opportunity to also share her challenges, and we'll see if there are any similarities or differences between what she went through and what we are going through in Africa. Christina?
Hi, how are you? It's
Very
wonderful
well.
to hear from you all. I'm coming to you from Toronto, Canada, and I'm the global head of learning for a company called Deciem. We're only 8 years old, so we're quite a young company, but we've experienced hyper growth in the last 8 years. We make beauty products, and we're up to 1,200 employees just in a few short years. We make our products in-house, so we have a production site, we have our retail stores, and then our office community. I joined 2 years ago to start up the learning function there. They didn't have any formal L&D, so it was really a blank canvas. And we always took a digital first learning approach because we really wanted to be inclusive. And I thought, what a beautiful intention. Everyone will have access with this global approach to continuous digital first learning. But some of the things that I've learned along the way that are really challenging is the unique barriers in some of our business units. So in our production site, everything from the fact that, on the front lines, which is shift work, you're in and you're out. You can't really stick around. There is actually no place for even a classroom if we wanted that type of learning. And people can't use their phones on the floor. So how did they actually get access to our LXP, to our LinkedIn Learning on site? And actually in the afternoon or the evening shifts, their hours are so unusual as well. And many people are, parents, and they have other responsibilities. So it's very hard to ask them to dial in and to learn from home. Also, we can't assume that they all have the right technology, right? Many people are maybe not equipped with the best computers or even the most modern mobiles. So it makes it really challenging to assume that they can access the digital first world that we have. We've put iPads in the lunchrooms, kind of like airport style, but with COVID, you can't really stick around. So it makes it really challenging. And we do a lot of listening sessions to ask people, what can we do? And some of the things they want are really old school. They want marker boards, they want bulletin board style. They want things that we might think are a little bit antiquated, but actually I've learned you really have to look at the unique context that you're in. They've even asked for learning on the weekends because they can't dial in throughout the week necessarily. So while we have a culture of, weekly continuous learning, if they can't access it, it's really not globally inclusive. Similarly, in our retail environments, while they've got iPads, they also can't have their cell phones on the floor, so they can't access the LXP or LinkedIn Learning through their unique single sign-on, email addresses, and that actually makes it hard for them to have a personalized learning journey. So again, struggling to figure out, well, what do we do there? And how do we navigate that? So I don't know if anyone has any of those answers, but I've learned that it's very tricky, and we need to balance some of the traditional methods alongside the digital first methods to really think about our context. I think in the year of COVID, we've heard so much about virtual learning, but it doesn't always work in every population completely. So we try to take more of a blended approach to try to figure things out that way.
Thank you so much, Christina. And I loved that. Your closing words are yes, that's it. Blended learning is key. And so we loved your closing remarks, which is that we always have to find the right balance. Also, because we don't want to scare people off, we don't want to put them off. And so why not start with an approach where we will be welcome, bit by bit, before they know they are right on board where we want them to be. So thank you so much. We really do appreciate that contribution. And I see a lot of comments in the chat box, and it's very interesting. For me, I am so excited, and I'm sure the members of L&D Africa, as well as the LPI, the LPI team present here, will be so excited to hear questions about and suggestions about. We need to build a community of practice around learning, both locally and regionally. We need to build a digital expert locator so we can easily identify who can help when we need the help. And this is actually one of the reasons why L&D Africa was conceptualized. It was that we realized that there was no body, no group, no way for L&D professionals in Africa to congregate and to meet and find unique solutions to the unique problems that we face. And so with Learning Live Networks, what we are doing is that we are bringing like-minded people together. And so this network, this is the first of many events that we will be having. And this network is exclusively for heads of learnings of institutions. And so when you come to a Learning Live Network events, you know that you are talking to people who are in the same position as you, who face your problems, and you are coming to share ideas and to brainstorm on ways to make things better. And so we are building that community. And so we hope that you will stick with us till the end, because we are building that community, and it is it's a regional community, it's an Africa-wide community, but we also have global links. You know, through Learning Live networks, Christina has been able to share her insights with us. And so we are looking within, but also we are outward looking. And so this is, to me, the perfect solution. So I feel like you are in the right place at the right time, if I may say so myself. And so we did have a question in the question and answer box that says, Walking is asking us all a question. He says, digital learning platforms seem to favor more auditory and visual learners than kinesthetic learners. Could anyone reflect on this? So he's saying that digital learning seems to favor auditory learners. It seems to favor visual learners, but he does not think it favors kinesthetic learners. Would anyone like to weigh on this? In the panel?
I can start. It is not completely true, but largely all the types of learning materials and delivery methodology, yes, have focused largely on these two. So you have the visual, if you are using smartphones and the rest. And for us, when we use the IVR, we are basically talking around the auditory. But in the when you use the smartphone, there is what we call the gamification. And the gamification is actually kinesthetic because you are learning by doing. So I can teach you, let me say, accounting, all right? And after teaching you accounting, I can say, all right, now I have a list of, so I'm not going to even put the list. I'm going to be serving you like a card. And then I will throw the first card, and on that card, you will see this is rent. Is it fixed or variable cost? And then I'm going to have two buckets. And then you take it and you throw it into the right bucket. If it goes into the right one, it maybe a bell rings, it turns green or something like that. If you throw into the wrong one, it does red. So that way, yes, it's visual, but you are doing something. And that's what kinesthetics is all about. I spoke about it because it's a learning pedagogy that most of us are not thinking about. So we just do our PowerPoint, the voiceover is very boring. You need to look for other methods. Even for auditory, there is what we call visualized auditory. And people don't understand that. So if I'm speaking, if I'm teaching, I'm going to employ people that write story. So although it's auditory, but it's also storification. So I can talk about a barber that opened a shop, and in less than 3 months, everybody is buying from barber because of 5 things that she did. Once I say 5 things that she did, the listeners are going to be saying, what are those 5 things? So I'm already interacting with them. And I'm going to say the first thing is that for the product that she is selling quality products. So if you want to sell like Baba, the first thing is that you must sell quality products. And so my tone of voice, the way I am drawing your attention and all of those things, yes, but it is ordinary. Then I can move from one into a conversational style where somebody then walks in like I am consulting on the radio for this guy. And so all of a sudden you are watching a movie in quotes, but it's a dramatized learning. And so there are different methodologies that makes it so interactive. You want to jump into it yourself and say, no, this is what it's supposed to be. And the beauty of what we do, especially with the IVR, is that currently we're running it on 3 different languages. So it's not about it being used remotely with non-smart devices, but I'm having it in Pidgin language, I'm having it in Hausa, and we're going now into Igbo and Yoruba, and you can use it in every language. And so once you have, you can translate and then you can deliver. But you have to use, one thing we have learned, don't use your regular faculty, use radio presenters that knows how to hold their audience up, even when they are not seeing them. But it is possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Gideon also, I think he and Mr. Bamkole were thinking the same thing, because he says it's not completely true if you design learning events that involve practice and gaming, and I think you've expanded on it. And so I have learned a lot, and time has flown by. I cannot believe it, because there are so many more questions that I would like to ask, but it looks like time has just flown by. And so I will ask my final question, and I will hope that we can have this again, because I did not exhaust all my questions that I had to ask at all, and I did enjoy this session. My final question would be what I'd like to call the silver lining. And so we talked about all the things that we have done during this COVID period. Most of us have expressed how COVID sped up the rate of going virtual and going digital in our organizations. And I'd like to know from you, please, what has been an unexpected gift that this current situation has given you? What has been an unexpected gift that this current COVID, the shift to digital, what has been an unexpected gift that this situation has given you that you never anticipated? What are you taking forward with you with regards to the aftermath of COVID-19, where learning and development and the shift to digital is concerned? And so I think that, Mr. Bamkole, I will take you last on this one. I will take this Brown first, then I'll take Charles, and then we'll take last from you.
You want me to go first?
Yes, please. Ready when you are.
Okay. So I think the surprise for me was the eagerness in which my baby boomers adapted to the switch from face-to-face to the virtual learning, and their authenticity in the fact that they actually enjoyed doing that. That for me was really, I'm happy about it, because in my mind, this is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Whether COVID will get better or it won't get better, we would have enjoyed the benefits of virtual learning. You can do in your car, you can do, so who wants to go back to have to rush through traffic and get to somewhere at 8 o'clock when they can just, punch a button and be a part of the class. So that for me has been really the surprise. There were, of course, I was expecting resistance, earlier on, but I think that everyone right now is really happy with the direction in which it's going. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Whenever you're ready, please.
Oh yeah, sure. Barbara, I just to add to what Ms. Brown said, I think the creativity and innovation that I've seen within, especially the nonprofit sector, but even beyond, on how people are using tech tools. I think Africa, we have a lot of brilliant people, technologists, who are just coming up with so many different innovations to enable learning. And for me, that for me was a gift, because in the midst of the difficulty, we found we kind of came out of that difficulty and seized the moment and realized the importance of technology, and we are really embracing it. So for me, that's an amazing gift. The other gift is the power of blended learning. That, look, even beyond the pandemic, right now, we see the importance of having a mixed method of delivering learning. Online will still be important, but we also recognize that there are certain things online can't do. that face-to-face can do better. So for me, that's amazing. And then also the opportunity has presented for us to develop what I call contextual content. What do I mean by that? We've been forced to think deeply about developing content that is authentic to where we come from. So we have been forced to develop graphics, illustrations, do videos of our own experiences instead of always looking online and getting content from abroad. So I've seen more African-based content being developed, right? Because basically we had to, in order for us to maneuver and in order for people to really accept the shift and the changes that were happening. So for me, those have been the golden gifts. And I'm hoping that this momentum will not end, that we'll seize this opportunity and grow stronger. So thank you.
Saluta continua. I'm sure we will keep on with the momentum. So last but not least, Mr. Bamkole, please, what has been the unexpected gift?
Actually, there are quite a number of gifts, so I'm just going to run through very quickly. I think is the gift of speed for me was number one. We used to drive a slow coach, and all of a sudden we're riding on a jet plane. Just bang, and nobody's even complaining. Secondly, all of a sudden we have become global. This particular conversation we're having, 2 years ago, we will never have had it. We will be thinking of flying to Ghana or something. Today, we can do it. I was even ready to start the conversation inside the traffic. That is the way it goes. So that is access. But so there's access to global resources. You see Christiana talking in Toronto, right? You do like 9 or 10 hours before you get to Toronto. But one interesting thing I have seen is anything is possible virtually, anything. And people became so creative during the pandemic. We celebrated birthdays online, burials, this, that. And the photographers became more creative. We were having hybrid events, all kinds of stuff. In fact, at EDC, we had Zoom parties. That was great. Before the parties, they knew how to deliver the small chops and everything. People just radically, change the way we live our life. Tomorrow, I'm actually having a hybrid class. So there are some people in the north and the east, they are joining us, and some of us will be in the classroom, and that's a hybrid class. It was never a part of our conversation. But all of a sudden, nothing is impossible. That for me is the greatest gift that this period has given to us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been, nothing is impossible. And I do have a contribution from Gideon in the chat box. He says the gifts for our organization is that many people have discovered themselves. Our very shy colleagues are now contributing to meetings and even facilitating in-house programs. Virtual gave us that. And so I feel like it's a good note for us to end on. There are silver linings. But before we leave, you've talked so much about the need to upskill and reskill and to find the right skills to be able to shift to virtual properly. And so I would like to show you briefly what Rainbow Consult and the LPI have in store for us where virtual and upskilling and reskilling are concerned. The first thing that I'd like to show you is the Lpi Capability Map. And I love free things. And so that's why it's the first thing I'll talk about. It's a free tool on the LPI website. I'm going to put the link to the tool onto the website, right onto the chat box right now. It's a free tool on the LPI website that you can use to assess your skills as an L&D professional. And so it will show you where you are, how you measure up to other L&D professionals globally, and where you need to improve your skills. Where are your shortfalls? Where do you need to improve your skills? You will compare your results also against your peers in learning and development, and it will help you to understand what is needed to build your future capability. And so I encourage us all, please go on to the link that I have sent in the chat box. I will be sending it to you in emails again also tomorrow, but please visit the link in the chat box and see how you measure up. But it's also very important that if you are doing this measurement, there's a team code that you need. When you go onto the LPI website, the capability map site, and you are filling out the capability map, there's a code that you will need to use, and the code is RAINBOW, RAINBOW. So please don't forget to use that code when you are filling the capability map. The next thing that we're going to talk about, because we spoke about facilitating online sessions and how just the shift to facilitating online was very hard, and it's not easy. And there are skills and tools that you need to be equipped with so that you understand the methodology and the pedagogy of teaching online. And so we are running LPI's Certificate of Online Learning Facilitation. Registration is in progress. I am going to share again with you my email address in the chat box. Kindly email me if you are interested in taking the certificates for online learning facilitation. And after this session, I feel like everybody will be interested in taking this certificate. So that's my email address. Registration is in progress. You can also register via the Rainbow Consult's website, www.rainbow-consult.com. We also, with the LPI, provide digital and virtual learning strategy for organizations. And so please don't hesitate to reach out and give us a call if you are in need of some strategy sessions, for some sessions to help you in your shift to virtual. Thank you all so much. It's been such a pleasure having you with us. And please look out in your emails, because now that you have joined, you are part of the Learning Live Networks family. And so we'll be having many of such events where we can share ideas and brainstorm like we have done this evening. Thank you so much to all my lovely panelists. Thank you to Christina for joining us from Canada. Thank you to Michael and the LPI team. And of course, thank you so much to the L&D Africa team for organizing this and putting this together. We could not have done this without you. Thank you all so much.
Barbara, this is Michael. Can I just say thank you on behalf of all of us for you hosting such a fabulous session. You've done a really good job, and it's very, very much appreciated.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you for having me and allowing me to talk your ear off. I do love to talk, so I guess I was created for this. So until next time, thank you all so much, and we wish you a very good evening. And please don't hesitate to contact us should you need any of our services. Thank you all so much for coming. It has been a pleasure.